Morning, everybody. This is Cookie Satin. We're about to start the second class of Dreamweaver. We had a little late start last week because of some technical difficulty, which got me just to pass over my introduction and went straight into the class. So I'm going to just do it now so that we talk a little bit about how the web works and a little more about the window itself that we're working from. So how the web actually works is the web is a series of computers all over the world. These computers are known as web servers. They serve up web pages. Web pages is a page filled with code, HTML, JavaScript, and various technologies. If you go to a web page, and get there in just a moment, the way you get to a web page is using a URL, a Uniform Resource Locator. When you're looking at a page, it may look like my window right now, but what's going on behind the scene is the code, and this is just a sample of what the code may look like in a website. When we first opened Dreamweaver, the window looked something like this. Just wanted to review some of the different aspects of it. You have your insert bar over here. We talked about how to get this window if you don't, this section if you don't have it, and you do that through window. Make sure that you click insert and it'll give you these tabs in this area. See if I can move this. I know that there's something that's going to keep on blocking, and see if I can squeeze it away during the class. It gets a little bit caught up. There we go. Okay. On the right side, we have our panel groups. We've mainly been focused on our files panel, and we'll be lightly touching on the CSS panel. We'll get to the others later on. The main one will be your files panel. You always want to make sure that the current file is what's showing up in this area. This area being your property inspector, depending on what's going on in your document window, will alter what you'll see in the property inspector. Well, this is just a sample of a website. And the reason I bring it up is that keep in mind that the upper left-hand corner, this corner of your website, is the most crucial area, is what people notice first. You'll also notice that all websites have a basic structure. You'll see that it's set up in either tables or in divisions, and we could create something like this using the tables that we started to work with on Monday. You'll also notice that every website has a heading area in here, basic links in here, and certainly anything in this area, they're all links, and we're going to be working on how to create these links. And each of these pages, you'll notice that each one has same type of structure. I'll go back just for a minute. The logos are generally up in the upper left-hand corner of your window. Again, upper left-hand corner, and your navigation either on the side or at the top. Okay, again, looking at the basic Dreamweaver page, you have your application bar in this area, your document toolbar over here, the document window. Right now, if you notice, I have this on a split view, which shows the code on the left side and the actual page, what the page would look like on the right side, the design side of it. So the workspace switcher, we'll talk about that in this area. I like to generally work in the classic mode. you can switch and see what each mode will bring you, which one you're most comfortable in. CSS Live, I don't think we'll be getting to it, but just be aware that it is here. Your G is your tag inspector, or sometimes known as the status bar. This area will show you where you are on the page, and it will also show you the size of the page or the view in this area. These numbers in here, I know it's real tiny, is your loading time. Again, your properties in this H area, properties inspector, and your file panel. Okay, we talked about the free download, and I was told that my address up here might not be correct anymore, but you just go to Adobe's website, and I'm sure you'll find the area to download it. Make sure that your computer has the specifications necessary for the program, or even if you decide to purchase it, again, make sure that your computer is up to date and could accommodate that program. It's a pretty heavy program and takes up lots of space, and so just be sure before purchasing it. Okay, I'm going to pass those over for now. The pages that I'm going through quickly, all of this is available to you on my website, www.cookiesetton.com. When you click into the Dreamweaver area, you'll be able to download this. It's under Introduction, so that way you'll be able to read it over and get to know each part of the window, what they do, and how to use them best. And this area is really just going through the tag, the status bar area, really understanding what each of the parts are there for. Okay, and again, I urge you to look all of this over on your own and really get to know the parts of the window. Okay, with that, I'm going to close PowerPoint and get started in Dreamweaver. If there's any basic questions about the window, you could, put your questions in the chat. Try to use the chat more than the Q&A. It's easier for me to be able to stay organized with it. Okay, so last time what we did was we started to create our page, and I'll go back into our index page. We got up to the point of inserting the logo at the top. We inserted text into the middle area. We also changed our heading style over here. Our family is in the format style heading 1. And in this area, heading 2, we changed the format style to have this green color. And as we start to create styles in Dreamweaver, you'll notice that in our CSS styles, we start to gather a group of our styles in here. So anytime we want to make a change to one of our styles, we have quite a few different ways of approaching that. If I wanted to work on my heading 1 style, as soon as I click into this area, I'll notice that H1 is in my status bar. I can click into it, or I can click here, and I could edit my styling from this area. From page properties, I could make some changes. That's where we put the color originally, but it limits me in this area. From here, I have a little more flexibility. Okay. Another thing that we did last week was in this area, we added bullets to our list. And what I would like to do now is just add some navigation in this middle area. I want the navigation to come from the middle. So what I'm going to do is, hard to get up here with these, okay, Julia, I'm glad you're here. A little late, but it's okay. All you really missed was the introduction. I was just kind of reviewing a little bit about the Internet and how the structure of Dreamweaver, the interface of Dreamweaver. Okay. Sorry that it goes back and forth for some reason. Hard to get that to stop. So in this second row, if you remember, our table structure consists of 3 rows, 3 columns, and we merged our second row to be just 1 column. But I want to start in the center of the page, so by going up to Format, Align, Center, brings my insertion point to the middle of the page, and I'm ready to start to create my navigation. If you notice that I'm putting vertical bars in between each of my pages, or the links for my pages, this vertical bar is on your keyboard. It's 1 key above the Enter key. So hold the Shift key and tap that key, and you'll get that vertical bar. Kind of one of those keys that I don't think I knew we had it until I needed to use it. It's probably been there for years, and I just discovered it when I started using this program. Okay. So we created these words. We don't really have pages to connect to yet, but we will be later on. Our home page is our index page. We'll be creating an Order Now page and a Contact Us page in just a little while. Looking at the side panel, I'd like to put some color in this area. I'm going to click into my tag inspector, and if you see here in the browser specific, I'm going to click onto the background, and I'm going to search for a background that will look pleasing on this left panel. Now, it comes straight into my site root. If it comes and you look in and it's not the folder that you should be working on, just click into site root and it'll take you there. Going into my images, and the image that I want to use is my left border. Okay. And it quickly filled the entire area of my left border. Now, I want you to see what that picture actually looks like instead of staying in the files, because if I show it to you from here, you're only going to see the name of the image itself, but you don't actually see what the image looks like. If you notice, the size of it is only 1 kilobyte. I'm going to switch from the File panel to the Assets, and from Assets, I can actually see my images. So if I start to scroll through them, you'll see that this image is really a very tiny image. And what I'm going to do, just so you can appreciate it a little more, is I'm going to drag it right over to here. Seems to have gone in a place that I wasn't asking for it. I'll drag it in over here so you can see it better. Insert image. Okay, this is what the image actually looks like. So I did this so that you can appreciate what happens over here. What I did in this area is I didn't request it as an image. I requested it as a background. As a background, it gives me the option to type right above it. As an image, I can't do that. Let's see if I can click back into it. You see that I can't really do anything with it as an image. Also, once I requested it as a background, I can also control how much area it's covering. Even though it's only about 1 or 2 pixels in height, I'm requesting Dreamweaver to repeat the image going all the way down. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. And it filled the entire area. If I go into my, my page properties is not, I'll show it to you in the page properties, but let me show it to you by opening just a new page just for a moment. Okay, I'm just opening a new page because I want to fill the entire area with a background so you can see what's actually happening. My background image, I'm going to stick with this left image that we've been working from, this left border. Okay, now, of course, you see that it filled it across, down, it filled the entire area. The repeat, which is right here, by default will repeat the image up and down, being the x-axis, and across. I'm going to just put it on by x. Oh, I think I said it the wrong way. The x being across, the y being up and down. So right now I put the repeat only going x, and you see that it's only filling across the entire width of the page. If I switch that to y and I press apply so you can see it right away, it's only filling the length of the image. If I put repeat is actually the same as the default, and now it's filling the entire area. So what's happening on our page is it's actually filling the entire area, but because it only has this much space, that 178 that we originally gave the area, the width being 178, and I'm going to stretch it out so you can see that you see it's really behind here, but because our table only comes up right up to this edge, it's filling it quite nicely. I'll take this little image out. We'll be putting more images in later on anyway. Okay. So we have the beginning of our links. If I want to change the style of it, want it to match what I had going on here, I can click into my heading 1, and I see that I changed my entire navigation to match this area. Well, that'll be fine for now, but other changes are going to happen in just a few moments. What I want to do is I want to link this home button to my index page. Now, I do have an index page, so it's not a problem to actually link it. What I do is I select the title, go over to link in my properties panel, and with my point to file, click on it and drag straight to the word index. .html. Now you notice that the color changed. The size stayed where it was, but the color changed because right now it's acting as a link. I'm going to press save what I've done so far. I'm going to view it, go into my live view, and you see that as soon as I mouse over to it, I get that hyperlink, that hand that tells me that it's going to take me to a page. It happens to be the page I'm on, but we'll leave it here because we'll be using the same structure to create our two other pages. Now, I don't have my page prepared yet, but I know that I will be naming that page order. So, once again, I'm going to select order now. And with the presumption that I'll use that name, I go straight into link, and I'll write order.html. Enter. And you see that it became a link. Now, it's not a working link yet, but it's prepared. I'll take my third page, Contact Us, and repeat the process. I'll call that page contact.html, and I've prepared my navigation for the pages that I will be creating. Whenever you make changes on your website, remember to continuously save your changes. Anytime you make a change, the way that you'll realize right away that it's unsaved is by looking at the tab up here. If there's no star, no asterisk in the corner, then it's already saved. If I make any simple change, you'll see the asterisk come right back. So make a change, make sure that you save the change. Okay, I see I have a few questions, so I'm just going to stop for a moment. Benjamin asked, is the link relative to the site home directory? The link is related to what's going on in here. Now, even though we didn't create the other pages yet, we prepared for them, but the index page is already in our local files, so that's why I was able to just point straight here. You want to make sure that all your files stay within your site. Don't have files in different folders. You have to have your main site directory together, and it should all show up in your files panel. And then Julia asked, what about using SHTML for things that need to be on all the pages of the website? I'm not sure what SHTML is referring to, but what we will be doing a little later is once we create our basic page, we're going to create a template. And from the template, every page will be set up feeding off of that template. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but that will become the best way to create your website. And then when you want to make a change, let's say I wanted to add more navigation and I have 20 pages on my website, well, I'll only be changing the template, and that will update on all of my other pages. And then Julia wrote a couple things. Okay, I guess that was the same thing. I think I kind of answered your question there. So we will be getting to templates, so I'm sure that you will appreciate, especially when you see how much work is involved in creating your first page. You certainly don't want to have to recreate and do all that work over and over. Just one other note. I'm just going back into my tab inspector again. Now, there's going to be times that you want to put a background, like the way I did right here. It worked beautifully. I clicked into here. My browser-specific popped up right away, and I was ready to add the background. But there's times that I'll click into an area, and I just don't see that browser-specific available. It gets a little bit frustrating. So what you want to do is, instead of just clicking into the area, and again, you see I don't have browser specific, hit your control click, and what that does is it'll select that cell, that table row, and browser specific will pop up. Again, I'm down here. I want to add a background to this middle section. I don't see my option. Control click, and all of a sudden my option changes. It could get very frustrating when you follow along and you go to your own computer, try to do it, and all of a sudden the option is not there. Okay, so we made our links. We made our link for Order Now. We made our link for Contact Us, and if you remember, we named it contact.html, and I don't want to make an error, so I'm going to highlight that link name and Control-C copy it. Again, if you're working on a Mac, you know that the difference is always being Command instead of Control. I'm going to go to File, Save As. Always check that I'm in the right folder. It says Index right now, Control-V. I'm just typing over it. Press Save. And what I just did was I created a second page using all the styles that we set on our first page. And if you notice in the tabs right now, I have my index tab, my contact tab. Now, later on, you will create the template first. But, you know, for this class, I want to make sure that we cover a lot of things and just kind of an easiest way to get this part started. So at this point now, I have 2 pages. I'm going to take it over to the browser. Preview in, I could take Internet Explorer or Firefox. I kind of like going back and forth and make sure to see what my page is going to look like in each one, because it does show up a little different in each. And you'll notice that right now it's telling me I'm in my home page, because remember, we copied and pasted, but we didn't change the title. I'll click into home. Right now they're really going to look the same, so I can't really look like it didn't connect right. Oh, you're not seeing anything. All right, I'm sorry. I guess I have to share this page. So let me see if I can get over there and share it. Sorry. I know you're not seeing anything coming right back. Okay. Okay, so my contact page, I want to immediately change this to say contact. I'm going to change the name up here to Contact Us. And for now, I'll wipe out all the text that we had put inside of it. Now, if you notice, right now, Contact Us is down here. As soon as I click away, it pops back up. I'm going to save my change. Now, the problem is that I want to get back. I want to make sure that each of my buttons so far are working. So let's see, I have the home going to index, contact, going to contact, and order, which doesn't exist yet, going to order. Okay, so it looks like we're at the home page right now. And we were able to get over to contact. Let's hope that this page is working also, and we're back again. So we created our first set of links, and we're ready to move on. Okay, I'm back in Contact Us, and we want to add some information onto the page. And I'll just quickly put some text in here. trying to type quickly and I end up misspelling things. Okay. This is going to be the crucial part of what I want to go over. I'm putting in an email address. Okay, I'll leave it like that. And I'm going to select all of the text that was just added and center it. Leave this as my H1. Okay. Okay. So what I want to happen when somebody comes to this page, I want them to be able to click into this email address and allow it to take them straight into their default email program, whether it be Outlook or mail program. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to select the email address and copy it. Go to my link field, add the words mail to, colon, and paste that email address right in. And you'll notice, save my change. Now go into live view. We'll go back into the onto the browser later on, but from the live view, at least you can see that it's acting as a link. I can't really click into it and have it take me into my email program, but you can see that the link is already in place. Now remember, anytime I go into live view, it's like a read only. I can view it, but I can't make any changes to it. Okay. I think these buttons look way too big. I'm going to bring it down into a heading 2 size. I think it'll be a little more pleasing on that size. So just by clicking in any of this area, you don't really have to select the whole area because this is considered one paragraph, and any formatting change I make here will really affect that whole line. Now, so we started to create our navigation system using our point to method and also using the method of typing it in ourselves. I'll take this out just for a moment, show you one more method. If you want, you have the option to browse for the files. Now, I happen to be in images, so I'm going to have to go up a level and choose the file that I want it to link to. So that is an alternate way of putting in the file that you want to link to. Depending on how many pages you have, this area might fill up. You might find it difficult to scroll up and down. So I like to offer all of them, and you choose the one that works best for you. Okay, let's just create our Order Now page. Again, I'll start from my index page. I always like to save my work as I move along. I could save individually, or from here, save all will save every page I'm working on. Well, since I happen to be here, I'll create my new Order Now page from here. Go to File, Save As, and give it the name Order. Make sure that I change my title right away so that I don't confuse which page I'm on. And I'll make my change here. And I can leave this text and just wipe it out later on. Come back into our index page, and we're going to make some more changes. So if you remember earlier, actually on Monday, we inserted an image to fill this first row, and now what I want to do is I want to insert some images within my main content area. I'll show you a few different ways to work. My first option is going to insert image. Look for the image. Now, many times I like working from here because I can see right away what my images look like. I don't have to really memorize the name of each image. I'll take this beaver only picture. I also like to be aware of the size of the picture, which I can see over here. It's all done in pixels. I can see the size of the file itself, in this case being 11 kilobytes, a very small file. It'll load quickly. I don't have to worry about loading time. You really don't want your pages to load slowly and perhaps distract your user and lose them on the way. So I'll press OK to that picture, and the window that pops up, the image tag accessibility attributes, will always come up asking you for an alternate text. This is used for the screen readers to be able to read a description of this picture. It's really important that you add that in. For a couple of reasons, your page might be viewed by someone that is seeing impaired, and they might have a screen reader that's reading text. When it comes to pictures, the screen reader will read the description of the image. Also, the search engines do not recognize images, but they do recognize the description. So it will bring more traffic to your website if the search engines are knowing enough information about your site. Let's say your index page is filled with mostly graphics and very little text. Well, search engines aren't going to see much about your page if it's just a graphic with no description. So these descriptions become really important. So I'll just put into here beaver carrying logs and press OK. And right away the picture fills in according to where my insertion point was. You'll see down in the Properties panel, my alt text appears here. If I don't like the name or the description, I have the ability to edit it from here. I also can see the size of my image, the width and height. If I decide the picture is too small, bring my cursor over to the corner, and I could resize it. You see, as I resize it here, that it gets resized in this area. You want to make sure that you keep the proportions equal. If you're working from here, you should be okay proportion-wise, but if you work from these ends, then it's going to change the proportions of your picture. Oops. I'll get it back. Okay. There we go. You could manually change the numbers from here if you know that you want it, let's say, half the size of what you have. 204 becomes 102, and this would become 93. And you see that I was able to change the size from here as well. Go back to, okay. So now I have my image here. I don't really like where it's placed. Show you in the live view what my page is starting to look like. It's too close against our family. It's not well proportioned on my page. So, a couple of things I can do. First, if I move it around, you see I can drop it anywhere. That's my first option. But if you go down to the alignment, you'll see, and the ones you'll probably end up using the most are your left and right. I'm going to use my right for now, and you see how nicely now it's wrapping around the text. I put it in front of our family. Well, it still moves to the right side because that's what I put in the alignment. But now it's at the top of the page as opposed to when I was in front of the Y, it moves down to below that area. So you see that you can move around. It's staying to the right. If I change my alignment to the left, it moves over to the left. Now, if I leave it here, another problem that you're going to notice, let me go into my live view so you see it better, is it's just too close to my text. It should have a little space between the two. Click back into my picture, and the reason I click back into the picture is I need to get my property panel open. You'll see that you have a vertical space and a horizontal space. I put 5 pixels into my vertical space. You see that it gave me a space above and below the picture. Put 5 in the horizontal space, and now it gave me 5 pixels between the text and the image, between the image and the edge of the table. I'll even go a little more, go to 10, and you see how I was able to give it a little more space. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so far the graphic, we inserted a graphic with text. Initially it was, I'll bring it back. I'll take this out, go back into the default. Oh. It was originally here, which by default is an inline graphic. I think the closest one, let's see, baseline. See if you can see. Top being that it's at the top of that text. Middle of the text, and just by changing them around, you can see the differences. Baseline is what there was by default, but we were content with the left, so we'll leave it there for now. Okay. So we have just one image over here, and again, I like to go back into preview it. This is the old page. Okay, our image is here. Our navigation. Oh, well, okay, this is actually correct. We just didn't change the text in here. And our contact page. And to go back home, we would have to click into home. Now, you might be familiar with many websites that allow you to click in the heading or into the image above or the image over to the left side. What we would like to do now is to create a link so that if I wanted to click somewhere in here, that would also take me back home. We'll go back into Dreamweaver. Now, we are working a little extra hard because we haven't created a template yet. At this point, any change we make, we're going to have to make to all 3 pages. I'm going to click into my original image, and I'm going to link this image the image itself to the index page. Save the change. Do the same thing on my contact page. Click into the page. Link it over to contact. Go over to order. And I'm going to take this out so it's not so confusing to look at later on. And instead of linking the entire image, I'm going to do something just a little bit different. The only part of this image that I want to link back to the home page is my little beaver over here. So instead of using this link, what I'm going to do is come down to this lower left-hand corner where it says Map, and I'm going to take a circle hotspot tool. Use the circle, the rectangle, whichever one you prefer. I'm going to draw a circle over the area that I want to become my link. Okay, and please describe the image map in the Alt field on the Properties Inspector. This description will help visually impaired people who use tools that read web pages to them. Okay, here's my link. Now, you'll notice there's a pound sign here. That pound sign is like a link holder until you actually put the link in. Take that out, and what I wanted to do is go back to the index page, and my alt text is going to simply say back to home page. Okay. Going to save all my changes. Right, you notice that everything has been saved now. And I think I'd like to preview at this time in Firefox. I have my computer set up that Firefox is my default browser, so I could press my F12 key in order to go straight to Firefox. You can decide which one you want to be your default. If you have it set on one and you want to make that change, go into Edit Preferences, and that will allow you to change. Assuming you're not seeing my window now, well, I'm going to find out in just a moment. And I have to see if I have to share this application with you. So if you're not seeing it, just give me a minute to get it there for you. Oh, it should be sharing. Okay. Okay, so let's see. I'm in the Order Now page. I like that it's showing right up here. If you notice, this was the page that we added the hotspot to. I'm in this part of my banner. There's no link. I come into this circle, this beaver. If you remember, we put the circle. I see that it links me. I come out of it, and there's no longer a link. What's good about this is I might have this one image acting as a link to many different areas. Right now it's just to the home page, but I might have some kind of an advertisement here or a link to another area within my website. But for now, I'll click here. It takes me back home again. This image is totally linking to the page. I'll go to Contact for a moment. Oh, hope I'll go there. And you notice that the colors are changing. That's by default. I didn't set the colors at this point of my link, you know, my hover, my visited pages, etc. Okay, it looks like my computer froze. Here it goes. Okay, and again, I'm able to go back and forth. Okay, we started the class today at 11:30, and right now it's 12:20. So let's just take a few-minute break, and we'll return in about 3 minutes. Thank you. If you have any questions, put them in the chat, and I'll address those questions when we return. during our break, I'm going to leave up a little review. So see if you can answer the questions and compile the answers, and in the chat put a number and your answers next to it, and we'll review it in a few moments. Now I can't fit all the questions up at the same time. Let's see. Actually I can, so I'll leave it like this, 1 through 8, and we'll answer these questions in just a few moments. I'm still here, so we're going to come back in a couple moments. I wanted to give you the opportunity to start to answer these questions. I hope you're seeing it. Let me know if you're not seeing my window. Well, I know right now you're not seeing it. Let me just read. Wait. Just give me a sec. Okay. How about now? Is it being shared now? No? Okay. Let me make one more change. Just a moment. Okay. Sorry about that. Sometimes I don't realize that each new program has to be shared individually as opposed to being able to share my entire desktop. And I guess we can actually do the questions together. Before starting a site, create a folder structure. Our folders should contain, and anybody have a guess? Let me put, I know it did it again. Just a second. Okay, I'm hoping that you're going to guess, but what should our folder contain? It should contain all the files, the web pages, and the images that we'll be using. So before you even start, I'm going to go back and forth quite a bit right now. If you're not in the folder or you haven't created this folder, make sure that you go into Site, Manage Site, and let me do it from here because I can't squeeze up at the top. Let me see. I believe I can get a new site from here. No. Let's see if it'll let me. No, it looks like I got to do it from up here, and these little windows keep on getting in the way that I can't I'm sorry. Okay, there it goes. Now I got it. Okay, from here, site, manage your site. If it's not already managed, you should have the list here of all your sites. You could make changes from here. If you don't have it here, make sure that you go into new site, give it a name, and make sure that you find your local site folder. And I'll just get rid of that. So make sure that once you do that, whoops, ended up in the wrong one. Then within your folder, you should have a subfolder for your images. You should have all of your files here. And if you had some text, you might want to save that text in a folder, in a file within that folder. Number 2, how do you get the files panel to show the site you're working on? Well, I just kind of showed you that, so I'm not going to do that again. To create a table, go to, we had 2 ways of creating a table. I'm hoping that in the chat you guys will remember what we did. Okay. Again, I'll just go to a new page to show you. What we did was we had one option was to insert the table from here. Second option was in our common tab to go over to table. Once we did that, we could decide on how many rows and columns and the width in either pixels or percentages. Okay. In the Properties panel, how are these 2 buttons used? And I circled it right here. Remember how we use these 2 buttons. One is showing up, the other is not. One is grayed out. You always have one grayed out. If I click into any area, again I see it, I can either split the cells into 2 rows, 2 columns. If I selected 2 cells at one time, then it gives me the option to merge as opposed to splitting. Okay. Number 5, to change the text to a larger size, we could use so far we've been using the heading tag. We will have different options later on. Heading 1 being our largest tag and heading 6 being our smallest. It does bring with it other properties, which we'll get into a little bit later on. Number 6, how can we set the site up to go from one page to another? Well, that's what we had just done a moment ago using our links. What does the point to file feature do? I'll show you one more time. That was this area. Instead of typing in the name, you could point to the file that you need and it'll fill this area in for you. You can also use that. Well, we'll see how to use that in other ways later on. And from the image above, what format style is it set to? You have your format right here. You can see it's set to heading 1. Okay, so I like to try to include a little review each time. I know we cover a lot of area and want to make sure that you're all understanding what we've been doing. Okay, so we had put a nice little image over here. I want to do a little bit more with images. This image right now doesn't link to anything. It's just simply an image. But if I wanted it to link to another page, again, I have my option right here in the Properties panel. I can link it to any other page if it's appropriate. I'm going to add an image to one of the other pages. I'm going to go over to order now since it's a pretty empty area. And what I want to do is I want to link, and I'll show you which pictures I want to use. I'm going to go into the Assets panel. I have that same little image that I showed you a moment ago. And then I have another image that's called Beaver Only. They're both called Beaver Only, but the second one is called roll. So you see one he's facing to the left and one he's facing to the right. So what I want to see happen is that I want my user to be able to see the beaver facing to the left, and when they hover over or mouse over the picture, I want it to change and show him facing to the right. So what I'm going to do is, right after order now, I'm going to insert that picture. Oops, there it goes again. I go to insert. Now, previously we went to image to insert the image. This time what I'm going to do is insert it image objects. And I'm going to change to try rollover image. Okay, so image name. I'll just call it my beaver roll. This is just for me. The original image, I'm going to browse around for it first. Go look in my images folder. And first I'll take beaver only. And then when it rolls over, I'll take beaver only roll. Alternate text, beaver carrying logs, left and right. Okay. If I want, I could add a link, which is equivalent to what we were looking at over here. Let's say I wanted to take them from this page to the contact page. Can add that in, press OK, and I have my image now. I'm seeing only the first image. I'm going to save the changes that I made and take it over to Firefox and see what my image actually looks like. Okay, so I'm in my Order Now page. If I bring the mouse over, you see that it gives me the second picture. Kind of cute. And if I actually stay here and click into it, it'll take me over to my Contact Us page. So what we did here was we have our user involved in the picture. They're able to transform that picture to a different picture just by mousing over and clicking in to get to a different page. You probably have seen something like this on many websites without even realizing what's going on. Just show you a sample of how I used it at one time. Sorry. The website that I worked on a while back, and here where you see the word blog, if you mouse over it, you see that it adds the words what we talk about. Now, if you wanted to go into it, you'd actually click into it, but what's nice about it is it looks like just by mousing over, you're adding that text. What's actually happening is it's two different images, one that has just the word blog, the second one having the second line, and that's done with the same rollover. Okay, everybody seems to be understanding. Again, if you have any questions, make sure to put it in the chat or any comments as we're working. You're welcome to add it into the chat, and hope I'll notice it because it doesn't pop up right away where I notice that the questions coming in. Okay, so I'm in the order now, and I think I'd like to just squeeze this picture just a little smaller so it's not in my way. And I'll change the default over to the left. No, I think I'd like it better on the right side. And see if I can move it to a better spot. Okay, that's looking good. So it's just out of my way for now. So when a visitor enters information into a web form, Well, what I want to do now is I want to create a web form so that, well, no, not in contact us. Actually, I mean, I want to be in contact us. That's where I wanted it. Okay. So I want the visitor to be able to contact me right from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a form to allow the visitor to submit a request. So what happens when a visitor enters this information into a web form, that's displayed on the web browser, and they're going to click into a submit button. The information is sent to a server where server-side script or application processes it. The server responds by sending a processed information back to the user or by performing some other action based on the form's content. Now, we're going to be creating a form, but since this is not a website that's actually published, the form is not really going to be set up to go anywhere. But we're still going to go through the process of using forms, of creating forms, and later on being able to have that form sent to wherever we want it to go to. So anytime that we create a form, we have to start by having an area that this form will be contained. The way we're going to begin is by clicking onto Forms. And the first thing we want to do is we want to create a form box. So just clicked it once and you see that there's a red dotted line. That's going to be the area that my form box will contain all of its information. I took it out just for a minute so that you can see that your second option, if you don't like working with this with these tabs, if you don't like having all this area taken up on your window, you perhaps want the document window to be a little larger, you can always use Insert Form, and it'll give you the same thing. Just make sure that your insertion point is in the right place before you begin. So I have my form, my properties panel changes. We'll be talking about this in a little while. A form name is just simply Form 1. I could leave that if I want to, or I could just put the word contact so I know which form it is that I'm working from. If for any reason you try this and you notice that I've been working from Classic View, but if for any reason you're not seeing this red dotted line, then what you want to do is, you want to go to View, Visual Aids, and make sure that Invisible Elements is checked off. Invisible Elements being this red dotted line will not show on your website, but is there for your purpose. So make sure you have a check mark next to it. While I happen to be here, if you notice I have a check mark next to Image Maps. That's referring to that map that we made a little while ago. Let me see, it was in here, this being our image map. The reason I'm seeing this, and again, this is an invisible aid so that I know that this area is linked to something else. If I don't want to see it, if it's distracting, I can uncheck. Where was I? Oh, boy, Visual Aids. That's what this is about. My table borders, if you remember those black dotted lines, again, invisible once you're on the website, but there for you to be able to see the structure. So you can leave these checked off if, again, something is not showing that you need. Make sure to put a check mark next to it. So here I am back inside of my form area. first thing I need is my first text field. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to be adding information into the ID and into the label. What I want you to do so that you can see the difference is I want you to type the word name, and I'm going to use lowercase so that you'll notice the difference between the ID and the label, because the ID is what the script uses to communicate with the form, where the label is the word that appears on the page. Now, let's get that in here. I'll put this in capital. Press OK, and you'll see here I have name. I don't really like where it's placed. I'm going to clean that up a little bit later. Actually, I think I'll do that from now. I think I'm going to create a table that's going to reside somewhere in the middle. It'll give a little more structure to this area. I'm going to go back into my Common tab, and my table is going to have one row, one column, the table with, let's say I'll make it 300 pixels. The border thickness, I don't need a border really, and I'll press OK. I don't really like where it is, so what I want to do is I want to center it. Okay, so this is where I want to work from. Again, going back into Forms, and I'll put my form. It's hard for you to see the red dotted line. It's kind of the red over the black, but it is in there. And now when I put in my first label, name, again, I like where that is a little better than where it was just a moment ago. If I go into the live view, you don't see any of those dotted lines. All you see is the word name and a field. Okay, click at the end of it, press enter. The next category I want is I want their email address. I'm going to go back into my text field. All right, email. Now, if you notice, again, I'm putting that in lowercase and this one in uppercase because the label is what I'll see in the form. I'll take you over to code just for a moment so you can see what is going on. Okay, this is my table right in this area. Okay, I see that my table width is 300, no border. I could change that right here if I wanted to add a border. Cell padding and cell spacing. Let's give it a cell padding of 5 right now. And I'll come back into my design view, and I notice that there's a padded area between the form and the edge of the table. If I go back in one more time and I make the cell spacing also 5, well, in this one it's really too hard to distinguish between them, so let's take that out, because that really won't show up in this case. Okay, we'll leave it to this extent. We're ready to add one more category that's going to be part of our form. Press enter, and this time I need to have not just a text field that's this small. I want people to be able to write comments. So instead of using a text field, I'm going to use a text area. And this one will be comments. Press OK. And don't really like the way everything is setting up. So let's see if I could. Well, I think my table is just a little too small. So I'm going to click into the word table. I'm going to change that to, say, 500. Oh, no, that's even too big. go to 400. And after the word comments, see if I can get, one minute. Okay. I didn't want that space between. I think I think it did look better the way I had it. All right, I'm going to leave it this way. So here's what I have so far. Now what I need to be able to do is I need to allow the user to fill in all this information and then have some place to submit it to. So we're going to add a submit button. Move over to here, button, simply says button. I'm just going to write the word submit, although I really don't need to write anything on it. It already knows that it's a submit button once I do that. And you see right away I have submit here. The value is submit. I'm going to add one more button. If the person filled it out improperly, I want them to be able to reset, and all I have to do is in the action, change it from a submit form into a reset form. So you see that I have a submit button, a reset button. The words are by default included. If I don't like the word, I could change the value to say start again. And you see that it's been changed. Click into my submit button, and again, if I wanted to make a change, submit now, and you see that my buttons are prepared. Let's save. Actually, we've done so much work, we should have been saving our changes. Let's go to save all, and take a quick look. I'm going to use my F12 key this time. And I see that my form is starting to come together. Yep. And if it was set up properly, which we can't do right now, I'd press submit now, and it would go to whichever email address I set up for it to go to. If I didn't like what I filled in, press start over, everything's wiped out, and I can start and create the information I need onto my form. Okay, we only have a few more minutes. We could take it for some questions if there are any questions. Otherwise, I'll just do a little more about the forms. I know that I have, let's see. Okay, well, it looks like there's no questions right now. But again, if there are any, let's see if my window it seems to be that there's two windows where the chat is going into, and can't seem to find that second window. So you might be having questions in there, and I can't seem to squeeze into it to respond to you. So I apologize if there are some questions. I know I saw two chat windows earlier, and now I'm only seeing one. Okay, what I'm going to do is, just with a few extra minutes, is I'm going to start a new page. I want to create one more form, a little more elaborate form, and I don't need to work within the structure of the website. I can work on a blank page, and then I can take all that information and move it into my structured page later on. So what I want to do now is, I know that the form that I'm going to be creating has about 9 rows of information. So I'll start by going into my Common tab, get my table out, and I'll make it 9 rows, 2 columns, and I'll show you why I'm working with 2 columns. As far as the width, I don't want to work in pixels this time. I want it to fill, let's say, 90%. I'm going to work in a percentage this time. 90% of the area that I need. When I move it into my website, into that main content area, it's going to fill 90% of whatever I already have there. Not knowing how much space I might need, I can always adjust it later on. Now, my header. I could work with headers right now. Not what that would do is it would allow me to make one column bold and the other column in regular print, or just the top row being bold and both being the left and top headers bold. So I'll work from none, and I'll put my own styling in for now. So I see that I have my table. Actually, before I even put that, I really ought to have my, wrong one, get my form started, and then insert my table within it. Okay, I want to always make sure I'm within my form. Okay, so we're going to do some of it the same as we did a moment ago, except that we're going to be working from 2 columns. So I'll insert my first label being the name. And right now you see everything is over to the right side. I'm going to take the name and move it over to the left. And then I want everything that's in this area to be up against the right side. So I'm going to click right here, and then I'm going into Format. Format Align, right. And you see how it moved over? I'm going to do one more. Let's get the email. We'll just put an address over here. Okay, again, take this area and move it over. See what it starts to look like. So now you see that although I'm working with a table, you can't really see the table, but you see that now everything in column 1 is aligning up against this edge, and it's going to end up coming out very neat, very structured. In my table this time, I am going to put a little space between my cells. Okay, if I go into live view, you see that it's separated a little. This being the cell spacing, you see there's a space between them. If I put a cell padding, what that does is it takes the text or the image away from the edge of the table outline itself. So there's times you'll see one being more appropriate than the other. Let's put in city. I'll leave it on cap for now. And we could continue city, state, and zip. I want to put in one more that has email, and I'll show you why in just a moment. Okay. Now, at this point, I don't want them only filling in information. I want to give them some other types of ways of answering questions. one way is going to be using radio buttons. So in the radio button, I'm just going to write radio 1 for now. You'll notice that they have the option, and let's see if we can give them a second button over here. Okay, and take it into live view. You see that they could, instead of filling in, they could choose. You might be giving them some choices, choice 1, choice 2, using the radio buttons. Here I'm going to use check boxes. And I put that within the same cell. What I'm doing is I'm pressing Control Enter before I'm adding my next ID. Okay, so I have 3 check boxes here. I'm going to go into live view. Now here they can only choose 1, but within the check boxes they can choose as many as they want. So there'll be times that you want to give them some options, this being sort of like a yes or no option, this being 1 or all of the above. Okay, so let's leave it at this point and we'll resume on Monday. If there's been any questions, and I know I'm not seeing there should be another chat window that I'm not seeing. As I close it, I will see your questions, and if I didn't answer them, then I'll make it a point to answer them when we resume on Monday. But otherwise, thank you all, and have a great weekend. Okay, bye-bye.